Hey guys, this is Chesney Hawkes here. You are watching My Hammers 11 with the one and only Russ.
Hi everybody, Russ from My Hammers 11. Hope you are all safe and well. For your channel, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell icon so you're made of any time we put new content on. As always, I'd like to thank our lovely channel sponsor, Untitled. Check them out in the description below. So, in the crazy world of European football at the moment, I bring to you a ray of sunshine all the way from Australia in Rich Garcia. Obviously, we've been very fortunate to have lots of ex-players on the channel, almost 70, I think, now, and Rich is no exception. Made over, I think, in all his time at West Ham, something like 22 first-team appearances in total. Part of that fantastic FA Youth Cup winning side where we've had lots of them on recently, so it's great to keep that sort of momentum going. And now he's head coach at Perth Glory. So how are we doing, Rich? How are you doing, man?
Very good. After a long day at work, it's good to come back and reminisce a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I mean. We were just talking beforehand, you know, Christ knows what's going on in the world of European football. So let's talk about the old days. Let's give a bit of break in the, you know, in the conversation, because it's all about the ESL at the moment. It's doing my head in. It's doing my head in at the moment. It's mental.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not great at the moment.
It isn't, but and in terms of I mean, how are things over there? You know, because obviously I'm a little bit sort of naive to how, obviously with the pandemic and stuff, and how it affected the Premier League and stuff like that. How did it affect the A League so much? What was how long was you shut down for, and things like that?
Yeah, look, I think when it first came about, we shut down pretty much the whole country straight away, and you know, we ended up having to fly over to Sydney and sort of play under a bubble sort of situation where we weren't allowed to leave the hotel and literally just going to games and training. And that sort of got the season out of the way last year. And this year's been just as difficult. I think we've had the last sort of 3-4 months almost away from home, just in case our borders closed in WA. We've probably been the tightest in WA as far as border restrictions and, you know, not opening to certain places. And, you know, we've had to actually do a couple of stints of quarantine as well on the way back from away games. So that's sort of been a spanner in the works. But as far as life in general, we've actually been pretty blessed that, you know, the country's sort of gone on as normal. You know, we've lived life as normal, very much in WA. It's been fantastic. You know, I don't think we've had a public case or a public transmission for over a year. So,
wow.
You know, for us, it's all been hotel quarantine stuff, which has been fantastic. You know, we've lived life as normal. So I think everyone realises how blessed we are to be here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it does seem like that. I have friends over in Australia and in New Zealand as well, and the way the pandemic's been handled there, you know, as you said, it's relatively life back to normal kind of things. And it's, you know, although we had the pubs opened last Monday, but you can only sit outside in groups of 6. But it's a start, Rich. It's a start, man. It's a start. We're getting there. And hopefully, if the Premier League is still going, we could have some fans in by the end of the season, which would be nice. Particularly for West Ham, because obviously West Ham, typically, it's taken West Ham to break into the top 4 to have the whole collapse of European football. That's what we've done. Oh, it's such a West Ham thing, and you know more than ever, Rich. You know, it's such a West Ham thing. You know, but we're having a great season. It's great, and you know, it's long may it continue, and we'll see what happens. Whatever happens. But yeah, it's the transformation has been somewhat unexpected in the last season, but no, it's all good. And obviously, as I said, you're head coach at Perth Glory now. Up and down season, I think, fair to say this season.
Yeah, again, you know, it's a lot of challenges being on this side and having the restrictions. We've had to play a lot away, and that takes its toll. And I suppose it's a little bit like the Premier League not playing in front of fans. I think you sort of lose a little bit of your edge, and that's sort of a bit of what's happened to us this season, is that we've been away from home quite a bit, and you know, you get tired being on the road, and things mount up. So, you know, we've got a stretch of games at home now, which will be fantastic. But yeah, very, very interesting world that we live in at the moment, and especially in football.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is. That's the best way to describe it, Rich. Very interesting at the moment. Right. Anyway, let's part this. Let's talk about let's reminisce. So, Richard's story is quite incredible, I think. And I was talking to the other day. Sean Byrne. We interviewed Sean Byrne, and he was talking about and also Darren McMahon as well. And they were really interested because obviously you came over. So how did it all start? Because if I remember correctly, you were scouted at 15. Was it 15?
Yeah, it was 15. Yeah, I was playing here in sort of like the local comp, and actually my brother was a footballer, and he was sort of like in the young Socceroos. He was like under 17s in the Joeys and stuff like that. And he had a guy that I think had good connections with West Ham called Gary Williams, and he actually wanted to take my brother over to the UK. And it just so happened that he said, "Oh, my brother's playing today. Come down and watch, and I'll speak to you at the game." He watched the game, and then after the game, he said, "Well, I want to take you both now." So that's how it sort of came about. He watched me for one game and sort of said, "Look, I think you've got enough to go over. So let's work out where we're going to send you." And in the end, my brother got injured and ended up staying, and I ended up going to West Ham. So yeah, very lucky, very lucky that the opportunity arose, I suppose.
Yeah, and I mean, as a 15-year-old, traveling halfway across almost the whole way across the world, but to play in the Premier League or play for an English club must have been like, this is just like Roy of the Rovers boyhood dream stuff. It must have been incredibly what's the word, nervous, because obviously you're moving to another country, but it must have been just excitement must have been off the chart.
Yeah, for me, I look back now and I think it's crazy. I see like nieces and cousins that are sort of 15 years old, and I think, how the hell did I go over there at that age? And when I speak to my mum about it, and she always says, she goes, "It was crazy that we let you go, but at the same time, I don't think we would have been able to stop you." Because for me, I just thought, what a fantastic opportunity, and I was so excited about moving away from home and going to play in England, and especially for West Ham, they were in the Premier League, and so for me as a young kid, it was such an awesome thing to do, and looking back now, it seems a little bit crazy because of the age I was, but I wouldn't take it back for 1 minute.
No, of course not, mate. And as you said, and then obviously, youth team, and then obviously, part of that youth team experience was that fantastic youth team. That whole team was incredible, and obviously culminated in the FA Cup, Youth Cup, which we still talk about. You scored in every round, I believe, that cup, if I'm right. And what was so special about that group of players? Because you still have a really tight bond, it seems, as well. You still talk, a lot of them talk to each other and stuff. What was it about that team that was so special?
Look, I think we had a lot of time together. We used to be at the training ground from 8 till 4. Hanging around to wait to do jobs, and it was just a good bunch of guys. And I think not even just the youth team, just the club in general, was a very good place to be at the time, and it was very homely. It always had a good feel about it, and everyone was very friendly. From the first team players all the way, to the kit man, everyone was so friendly and warm that it always felt like a home away from home for a lot of the players. So, we sort of used to hang around all the time and have to do our jobs and things like that. I think just everyone got along. Everyone in that youth team got along. And I think, Tony Carr sort of bred that environment amongst the lads as well, an environment of competition, but at the same time, that everyone was together as a group. And I think over time you just become pals, and I think that showed on the park when we played together. We used to enjoy playing football together. We used to enjoy spending our spare time together as well. So that's why we all probably still have that connection.
Yeah, definitely. And as you said, it was a great time. I mean, that was as a fan, parking this current sort of generation, it was such an enjoyable time to be a West Ham fan, because you had, obviously, you guys are winning. We had obviously you had Harry, and it was a successful period. We had, there was loads of characters. I mean, as a kid, when you go in and, you've got the likes of Wrighty was around, Razor, Trevor Sinclair, as a development, for you, it's they've put you right in the middle of it, really. Crazy.
Yeah, definitely. Look, they were fantastic older pros. You know, they were just the culture within the club as far as the way they included you and made you feel welcome. And you know, we had fantastic older pros that would get you involved in things, and you know, that type of environment was fantastic for us, because for me it was like the closest thing that I'd seen to any type of professional or senior team. So to see those guys and watch them day in, day out, and the way they enjoyed their football and the way they enjoyed life in general was fantastic. And, you know, they always gave us a lot of time. You know, you talk about Ridey. I remember, you know, Ridey coming in for a session. I think he was injured at the time, and, you know, he just took myself and Michael Ferrante to the side and said, you know, come do some finishing with me. You know, that type of stuff is so valuable to a young kid. You've got someone of his caliber, you know, taking you around the corner to practice finishing, you know. So not only did we get good coaching, we actually had a good environment of senior pros that wanted to pass the torch on and pass their skills on.
Yeah, exactly. And I get that. It gets echoed by everyone we talked to who was around that time. It just seemed like the right bunch, particularly, as you said, for you guys developing, you know, your first sort of foray into a professional club, to be thrown in the deep end with Ruddock and Wrighty and stuff like that. It was just, I mean, who did you have to clean anyone's boots, Rich?
Who do I have? I think I had. I can't even remember who I had. I think I had. Did I have Ian Pearce? No, I didn't have Ian Pearce. I can't remember exactly. I know I had Ian Dailly to start with, and he was pretty hard going. And then, you know what? Actually, later on, when he took over at Hull, I was there. And he goes, you know, he goes, used to do my boots. I remember that.
Did a shit job then.
It was a fantastic environment. You know, I remember like people like Johnny Moncur used to tell us stories, and you're a young kid and you listen to these stories, and you tell them with such humour that it was just a joy to go in every day, and you're always looking to those guys to see what they do next for you, you know, so it was great. Yeah,
no, it was. It did sound like great, and obviously, you know, eventually, you know, obviously signed pros and stuff like that, and then you sort of you made your debut, and as I played over 22 more games than me, Rich, 22 more than me at West Ham. Obviously, injury was obviously an issue, and it happens. It's so many, as you said, we've had people like Izzy on and various others who kept getting injured, and you felt, I mean, that environment was such I mean, with Harry, he liked to bring on kids, and, you know, obviously you saw the progression of Joe and Michael and Frank into the first team. You know, and it's one of those things, I think, which is a shame that we didn't get in more of that 99 make that impact. Do you know what I mean? It was a shame, because obviously it was such a good team,
Yeah, definitely. I think, look, that was something that was always in everyone's mind in the youth team, because you'd seen the likes of Rio and Frank go up, and I think, you know, Lee Hodges and Manny were sort of in and around it as well, and there were always a few younger guys in and around the squad. So everyone felt like, you know, if you were at the top of the tree in that sort of in the youth team, that was a chance for you to succeed. You know, so I think that probably drove us to be better, and I think when you get an environment like that, everybody wants it. So yeah, look, I mean, it's disappointing that you couldn't have built something that was probably more sustainable with the group that we had. And the group below us were probably just as good, you know, when you look at the likes of Leon Britton and Jermaine Defoe and guys like in that category. So, yeah, but I think that's something that takes long-term vision, and you've got to have someone at the club that's actually got that vision for the club.
Yeah, that makes sense. And as you said, you know, you reeled off like so many players. I mean, that whole academy under Tony was just a conveyor belt, wasn't it? It was. I think it was sort of Rio, that sort of the class just before you, and then it just like kept on going for about three or four seasons of just producing these first teamers, and it was just phenomenal. And obviously, you know, for you, you know, you ended up playing, like, you know, as you said, you know, as a kid coming over at 15, you know, then making your debut and you know, playing a lot compared to some people, a lot of games, you know, in terms of being in and around a squad. For me, it was like, it was always, you know, I always and all the fans, they always root for the kids, always root for the kids. So when you came on and they said, "Come on, Rich," you know, it was like, "Come on, Rich, come on," you know, and particularly come out for injury, "Come on, Rich, you could do it." You know, it was always a big swirl of support whenever you sort of you, or is it or Hodgie or Manny, or although I wish Manny didn't come on one game. There was one game I wish he didn't come on, which was the Aston Villa game in the cup, which he only played, and then we got it reversed. Oh dear! One day I'll talk to him about that.
I'm sure there's a few games that young boys have come on, and everyone's gone, "Oh, I wish he didn't come on."
But I mean, in terms of that, in terms of the development of youth, is that something that you've taken through into your managing and coaching style, in terms of, you know, being influenced by Tony's work, basically?
Definitely. You know, I think that whole period of my life probably had a big influence of where I went, and obviously now being in a position that I'm coaching, very much so. You know that you do give opportunities to young guys, and you try and develop young guys. And again, I feel like that's probably even more important in Australia, that you're developing from within, because we don't have the luxury of the amount of one people and two the flexibility to go out and get players from other countries. So that's really important to us, and that's probably at the core of where we're at the moment within the club. But I mean, when you look at the opportunities that were given to those young guys, you know, and some guys take it with two hands and run with it, and other guys, you know, stumble at the first hurdle. So I was sort of somewhere in between that, and you know, like I said, like after injury and things like that, you know, I sort of feel like I probably didn't do as well as I probably should have when I did have those opportunities, and probably back a little bit of self-belief after some injuries. But it took me a while to get back into form and get back from injuries and things like that. So, you know, that's sometimes where it lies, and I think the fact that those guys are getting chances, you know, is a fantastic testament to the club, you know.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And as you said, you know, I mean, you know, I used to go watch the Orient. I remember seeing you at the Orient. You went on there on loan, and obviously, you know, went to Colchester, played a lot of games for Hull and stuff like that. So it seems that what I loved about that sort of that generation, and you mentioned like Hodgie and Izzy and people like that, you know, they could have stayed in the squad. You know, they could have kept going. I mean, Hodgie was in Hodgie. He said, "Yeah, Harry offered me a contract, but I wanted to play first team football." And you know, and as I said, you've all gone and played over 100 games for other clubs. You know what I mean? And I mean, when sort of obviously leaving, because obviously, you know, it must have been especially for you, because you came over at 15. You know, it's like for West Ham, you got into the first team. You know, he was around about the first team. And then around, I think it's 2004, something like that, you know, you obviously moved to Colchester. When that offer came in from Colchester, it was an undisclosed fee, wasn't it? I think. Was it a big leave, a big binds to having to leave West Ham to go to Colchester, or was it more of a, you know, actually I want to go there because I want to play games, I want to make a career out of this, sort of a league career out of my profession?
Yeah, it was pretty much both, you know.
Yeah.
I'd been at West Ham for so long that I actually, for me as well, I felt like I left not unfulfilled, but I felt like I could have cracked it at West Ham and stayed there and been there for a lot longer. But I know when Pardew came in, that, you know, he brought in another load of young guys, and we had that conversation with him, and he sort of said, "Look, well, you're in and around it, but you're on the periphery. I'm not going to guarantee you football," and that's fine as well. You know, that you can't really guarantee people football. But from those comments there, I knew that, you know, he was offering me a contract, but it didn't come with that starting position, which is something I needed to do. You know, I needed to start spreading my wings, and I think, you know, with playing you get more confident. With playing you get more experience, so you don't become a little bit wet behind the ears as you are when you're a young kid. So I think that it was probably the right decision at the end of the day. But, you know, really, it would have been nice to be able to play that many games for West Ham.
Yeah, no, I tell you, that makes perfect sense. Do you know, your conversation you had with Pardew is exactly the same conversation that Hodgie's told me he had with Harry. There's the contract, but I can't guarantee you first team football. And he was like, right, well, you know, I want to, you know, having particularly yourself, you know, you're in and around the first team. You know, you've had your taste of it. It's all about being in the first team match day squad, isn't it? It's not this. It's not about being a ball boy or clean people's boots. You know, it's about being around there, and I totally get that, man. I totally get that. And obviously, as we said, you know, you were at West Ham for a long time, so you played with a lot of great players and trained with a lot of great players, and so. What we do is we put together this My Hammers 11, and I know you've seen a few, and as a coach, you know, you've got extra pressure, Rich, because you know, there's
because I've got different 11s for different things, you know.
You can pick. It's your 11, man. So you can pick it on what criteria you want. It could be the best 11 you played with. It could be the most fun 11 you want to. That might be cool. Like the most fun, because also then no one can take the piss. You're not gonna get a phone call from Izzy. Go, why have you not put me in? I was better than Rio. Or, you know, that's what I mean. It might be the most fun. That might be nice, because this world, we need a bit of fun at the moment, Rich. To be honest. You know what I mean? So it's up to you. You can pick whoever you want, man. But you we'll start off in goal. You can pick who you want, and you can tell us what criteria you want. You can say notable mentions, so you don't piss off anyone as well. That's what a lot of people do. But it's all just a bit of fun.
Yeah, no worries. Look, goals is it's a hard one because there's a few character goalkeepers. But I think by far the strangest was David James, so I'll go David James in goal.
Let me get J-Ro's number. Yeah, tell me, why was David James so strange? We've had him on, so you can slag him off. I've had him on now, so you can slag him off.
He used to drink like 400 teas a day or 400 coffees a day, and you know, he used to read books about black holes and, you know, astrophysics, and what are you doing that for? But he was actually an interesting character, an interesting guy to talk to, because he'd always have something out of the square to talk about.
Yeah, something a bit different. Yeah.
He's a good goalkeeper as well, so I'll probably add that in there as well.
Yeah, he's a good goalkeeper. He was a good goalkeeper. Funny enough, when we interviewed him, he did his 11. And afterwards, he said, "Yeah, bye, no worries." We said goodbye. Next day, he was filming something, and I knew the guys he was filming with, and they texted me afterwards, and they said, "We were talking about your interview, Russ," and David James couldn't believe he forgot to put Paolo Di Canio in his 11. It's like, I can't believe I forgot Paolo. You know what I mean? It's like you put Defoe and Canuto. So bless him. He was all right. I love James. He was really open. You know, I love honest players, and he was like, you know, yeah, sometimes I did F up a little bit, you know, I flapped a bit, and I'm a goalkeeper. That's what happens, isn't it? It's true. Right, let's go into defence. Let's we're going to play anything clever? We're going to go 4-4-2, Rich. What's your style? Are you a 4-4-2 man, or are you a wing back man? What's your normal style?
Yeah, I'm a bit of 3-5-2. I think we played 3-5-2 in the youth cup, so I used to like 3-5-2, and I still like that type of football.
Okay.
I think I might go for a 4-4-2. You know, I'll go for a 4-3-3 just to mix it up.
Just to mess it about, just for me to get a new graphic up. No problem. Okay, 4-3-3 it is then, my friend. Right. Okay. So we'll put J-Mo in goal. That's done. So who's going to be left back then?
Left back, I'll go Nigel Winterburn.
Oh. Nigel Winterburn, I like it. Why Nige?
Just because he was an all-round nice guy. I think, you know, he was sort of coming towards the back end of his career, and he just, you know, had a lot of time for the young guys, and gave a lot of good advice about football and about careers, and you know, he was pretty consistent in what he did. You know, he probably wasn't the most exciting footballer in the world, but he was always consistent in what he did.
Yeah, and he was. I mean, yeah, you're right. He was part of that sort of group. We had like a few of them, and actually most of them you played with probably during your time, but we had these sort of slightly coming to the end of their careers, sort of left backs. Really, they were all left backs. Really, obviously we had him, we had Piercy, we had Chris Powell, we had Rufus Brevet as well. Eventually, you know,
another as well. We had Scotty Minto.
Yes,
and look, that's one of the fantastic things about that era, is that, you know, we were lucky enough to come across, you know, I was thinking about it now, we had Les Ferdinand, you know, that's, you know, when you look at players like that, they're coming towards their Teddy Sheringham, you know, so you've got players of the highest calibre, and to be able to learn off these guys in their twilight is, you know, sensational.
Absolutely, totally, and it's funny. We've got Scott's coming on soon as well. It's just funny how it all sort of pans out. It's not like we planned this or anything, but Scott should be coming on soon. So but you're right, and it was that era, and you know, as you said, I mean, someone like Teddy, for example, Teddy came on and ended up being top goal scorer that you know, the seasons he was there, and you know, Stuart Pearce was Hammer of the year he was there, and obviously Pearcey's still, you know, he's back at the club now, which is fantastic, and you know, long may that continue. But yeah, I think it's important, particularly even for you guys, for the youth, having these guys who have been there, done that. I mean, Nigel's been there, done that. You know, Winterburn had done it all. You know, part of the Invincibles or whatever. You know, he was it. So, yeah, fantastic servant for the club, that was for sure. Right, okay, Nigel's in. He's left back. Let's go right back. Let's go the other side then, Rich.
I'll go the extreme opposite. I'll go Glen Johnson.
Glenny Johnson. Oh yeah, good old Glen Johnson. What a player.
I was there before he left. One of the nicest to fame I've ever seen. You know, but he was always good in the youth team, and he really performed in that first year when he came in. So I think he deserves a mention.
Part of that is part of that era that he'd, you know, we had as you said, we had some really good players come through, and you know, as a fan, you'd go, oh, he's brilliant, he's so good. Oh, how long till he goes? and he did, unfortunately, quite early on.
Just went straight away.
Yeah, it always happens. Not this year, particularly now. If we're not talking about the EFL, we're not talking about the ESL, we're not talking about them. But anyway, Declan Rice isn't leaving, surely. Right, okay. So that's the right. That's the right back. That's centre half. First centre half, then, Rich.
I'll go Razor, because he's an eye opener. He was very much an eye opener. You know, on and off the park. You know, such a character around the place, and you know, especially for us young guys coming through, very much an eye opener. So he was such a good character to have around the place, always laughing and joking around, and had a sweet left foot on him as well. So
yeah. Yeah, we had him on, we had Razor on, and I had and halfway through the interview, the dishwasher man turned up at my house to repair my dishwasher, and I left the camera running, and Razor on his own is a scary proposition. Just him, the camera, and I ended up keeping it in the actual show because Razor on his own is far more scary than Razor talking to someone. You know, he has his own thoughts and started putting on little voices and doing little plays. It was hilarious. But yeah, he's a top guy. Really, really. I had lots of time for Razor. Right. Okay. So we got Nigel, we got Glenn, we got Ray, we got one more. We got centre half. Who's the second centre half then?
I'll go Christian Dailly.
Oh, this is getting a good team. You can tell you're a coach. I'm liking this team already.
Christian Dailly. Was very much a hammer and tongs man. He was, you know, very much a hard centre back. I thought he always played with heart and always played with desire. And you know, he was sort of a good role model as far as, you know, always pushing himself in every game. You know, and I think that sort of summed up the type of people we had at the club at the time. Was, you know, people that always worked hard and always pushed themselves to be their best, and you know, he was a great example of that.
Yeah, totally. And he's that sort of, we love a play like that, don't we, West Ham? We love that. Or we have, you know, recent times like James Collins or Craig Dawson. If we forget Saturdays, and he got sent off. But you know, that sort of just put everything in the body, you know, just to stop that goal going in. And there's something very West Ham about those types of players, you know, Billy Bonds, Alvin Martin, like rugged players, and Christian was that. And I never forget when we it was the first playoffs, and we'd obviously beaten Ipswich at Argaff, and you know, and we gave him the mic, and he did this sort of almost Braveheart address to the fans. You know, we're going to go to Cardiff and we're going to win. We didn't win and we're going to win. And it was like, yes, you know, they can take our freedom, but they can't take our Premier League status. But they did, unfortunately. But Crystal Palace, oh my God. Right, okay, so there we go. Let's go into midfield. We're playing these 4-3-3 now, which we have to because I've changed the graphics. So you're stuck with it now. Who's the first one of that three then? In the midfield?
I'll go John Moncur.
Sorry, what was that?
John Moncur.
Oh, yes. Love John Moncur.
Yeah, one of the funniest guys, I think. Without really telling many jokes, it was just him as a character. He was just a funny guy. And, you know, growing up around him as well, you know, he was always two-footed. You know, he could pass with any foot. And probably for me, a really underrated player.
Yeah.
he was so technically gifted. Probably, you know, when I got there, he probably lacked a little bit of pace, but he just read the game and did things so well. And it was just so eye-opening to see a player that could play really well with both feet. And you know, from seeing him, and he'd always say that to us, you know, you got to play with both feet. And from that then on, you know, we would always practice both feet, and it was such a different way of looking at a game where he was so comfortable with both. It was fantastic, his range of passing.
Yeah, I mean, he's, you know, we've interviewed a lot of players who have played around that era, and just the stories, and you know, and we've had John on as well, you know, and it was brilliant because like John obviously he's a crackpot, absolute crackpot, and he's found God, hasn't he now? So he's a bit like reserved, and then we started talking, and this glint just started appearing in his eye, and then like it was like Tourette's. He just came out of, and this one time I did this, and this one time I went naked and did it. It's like he'd been all it all just came out. The real John came out in his golf stuff, of course, because he just got off the fairway. Right, okay, John's in. Who's next then, Rich?
Michael Carrick.
Oh yeah, great player.
Yeah, obviously still good mates with Mike, and you know, did fantastic for the club, and has had a fantastic career. All round good guy, and yeah, I think, you know, he's probably one of those success stories that's come out of West Ham.
Yeah, and again, similar to John, you know, I think John's very underrated as a footballer, because I think, you know, his latter day career when he was like the yellow card merchant, you know, sort of took over. But he was, as you said, incredibly gifted at, you know, obviously Swindon, and Glenn Hoddle wanted him to come to Chelsea, and because he was that good a player, you know, and in terms of footballing. Carrick's the same, because Carrick's one of those players. I see it as I call him the puzzle piece, the last puzzle piece. You don't know you necessarily need that puzzle piece, but when it's not there, you need him. Every club he's gone to, they haven't replaced him. Us, Tottenham, Man United haven't replaced him. He just brings something. He's just a glue. I think he was a fantastically underrated player, because it was always Joe and Rio and Frank and then Michael. You know, in terms of how they spoke about them, but no, should have had a lot more England caps as well, is my opinion anyway. Right, John, Michael. This is a great midfield. Who we got in that third spot?
I'll go for Joe. Joe can, you know, another good story out of my youth team. That Joe was fantastic. By the way, I don't have to be in his team, do I?
No, you don't have to. You can if you want to get the appearances up. I mean, some people do, but it's up to you, Rich. You know.
Oh, do I get an appearance for that?
Yeah, you get a cap. Yeah, I'll give you a special cap. Yeah, I'll change Wikipedia. Go on, I'll be all right. But yeah, Joe. I mean, Joe, amazing player.
You know, the whole country was talking about him when he first came into the youth team, and special player. And yeah, look, I think he sort of always had the confidence of a player of his ability, and he always showed that on the park. And you know, he really, for me, really came onto the scene fantastic, and played some very, very good games at a young age for West Ham.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, you're right, and you know, we should be having him on soon, hopefully. And you know, there's, I mean, you obviously felt a pressure, obviously coming from Australia. Imagine like everyone, all your family and friends in Australia wanted to see how Rich is doing. As you said with Joe, he came into the youth team, and the whole country knew about this kid. You know what I mean? At such an early age, and it doesn't matter what anyone says, that must have been a tremendous pressure on his shoulders, because everyone, and then obviously that youth team, FA Youth King, you know, that game at against Coventry, Upton Park, with how many thousands of people lining the outside of the pitch, and yeah, he's one of those stories, and I just think he's a fantastic analyst on BT Sport. He's brilliant. He just gets it, you know. A bit like Rio. Rio just gets it as well. I don't think it's a coincidence they both played for West Ham, and they're both fantastic analysts. Right, okay. Right, we've got Carrick, we've got Moncur, we've got Joe in the midfield. Three. Let's go the three up front. Who's going to be the top three? Who's your first one?
Look, it's hard to pick any of those players for it. There's so many players in every position that you could pick. I'll go for up top. I'll go Jermaine Defoe.
Yeah, let me put Jermaine in. Yeah, let's put Jermaine in. Where's Jermaine? He was keys. Yeah, Jermaine Defoe. I mean, you know, everyone says, you know, all the players, you know, best striker, best finisher of the ball they've ever seen. Would you agree?
Definitely, very much so. You know, and it was sort of like well, I won't want to compare him, but you know, Righty was there. I think it was at the same time, or maybe just before, and seeing clips of Righty and seeing his movement and the way they finished, and for me they were very, very similar, and he was very much a natural finisher, and got himself in great positions. So I think another guy who came in at a young age and really, really achieved and went on and had a fantastic career. So yeah, Jermaine, he's always got a goal, and he's always getting in there somewhere to find a goal.
Still scoring now.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Right. Okay, we'll put Jermaine in. Who's next?
Obviously Paolo Di Canio.
remember Paolo Di Canio. Well done, David James. But yeah, remember Paolo Di Canio.
It's pretty hard to go past Paolo. He probably was in his peak when he was at West Ham, and some of the performances were mesmerising. Some of the off the ball stuff as well was mesmerising. Another strange cat, but yeah, look, he was a good professional as well. He was probably one of those guys that sort of came into English football and probably had a little bit more professionalism about him in the way he went about his body and the way he did things. So that was probably the first guy that I saw that really sort of took care of their body and made sure that they were doing extras and doing other things that probably a guy of his standing probably wouldn't need to do, but just maintaining himself was fantastic. So, and then again, the quality that he had, and I would see him put people on their ass time after time, just chopping the ball, and he would continue to do it.
Yeah.
You get it. And it's like, well, how do you keep doing this? How do they keep falling for it? But he was fantastic around the place as well.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, just again similar to John, I think in terms of storytelling, he loved to tell stories about the players he's played with at Milan and yeah, incredible player, incredible man. Right, okay, we've got Defoe, we've got Di Canio. Who's the third? Who's the last piece of this puzzle then, Rich?
I'll go Trevor Sinclair, because you can't get around Sinclair after that goal, So no, but Trev, look, I really looked up to Trev when I was younger. I thought he was all round good person and good player. He always played with a smile on his face. He's a guy who I saw work hard every day, regardless whether he felt like working hard or not. He just had that. I think that was just in him to work hard, and he was very, very talented as well. He had an eye for goal, but then he could produce assists all the time. Yeah. I thought that when he was at that West Ham team, he made the England team in that period of his life as well. He was fantastic. So he was very good to have around the place, and very much a role model for me.
Yeah, and it was interesting actually. We've had Trevor on the channel, and we spoke about obviously moving from QPR to West Ham, and he didn't, because he was so not downhearted. He was downhearted at QPR. I think Joe Francis had just left, and and he didn't think he was going to get into the West Ham team. When he turned up, we saw these players, and he's like, I wasn't going to get. I was like, really? Trevor Sinclair, and he scored 2 goals in your debut. I mean, last person to do that since Jailings this season. But yeah, he's a fantastic player. Again, he was just a guy who was. He never seemed to score a tap in. Do you know what I mean? Every goal was just like some stupid. Yeah, I love plays like that. And that's the team. Where's the team? Let me bring up. There we team. Look at that team. Let me take out Trev. Sorry, Trev, not literally take you out, but there we go. Oh, that's a good team, Rich. I can tell you're a coach, man. I can tell you're a coach.
I don't know. It could add to that. There's so many players that have come across.
Of course you can.
Honestly, we really were lucky to be in such an environment where, who was talking about it the other day? Davor Suka was in the side. Like at one point, the guy just finished. I think the year he came, I think he got top goal scorer in the Euros the year before or something like that. And you're thinking, you come across all these players and you just don't realise how many players you've come across in such a short period of time at one club as well. So
yeah,
very, very blessed to have that time at West Ham.
That's exactly the way I look at it, Richard. It's like, we had an incredible bunch of players at that time, a real conveyor belt of youth team players coming through with these sort of seasoned older players. Plus, Harry would love to get a foreign signing, Radachoi, Ili Dimitrescu, these type, Hugo Porfirio, Danny. They're all there. They're all there.
Yes.
Rich man, thank you.
He had an eye for a deal and did have an eye for a player as well. So
He did. He did. Enough said. Anyway, thank you. So, listen, we'll move on for anything happens. But anyway, Rich, thank you so much. I don't want to take any more of your time. I appreciate it's late night over there. So, thank you so much for your time. I've really, really thoroughly enjoyed this last 40 minutes has flown by. So, thank you so much, man. It's been a real privilege. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
And also, thanks to everyone for watching. Whatever you do, give it a like, give it a share, give it a subscribe. And from myself and from Rich, take care, everyone. Stay safe. Wash those hands. Get those jabs when you get your appointments. Come on, you irons. And we'll see you in whatever league we're in. Take care, everyone. Much love.